What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome. If you guys saw my last video, I went on my first ever backpacking trip. So with that, I got gear. Now, when I first started thinking about the idea of backpacking, I said, no big deal. I have 30 years of camping stuff that I've saved up, 25 years of tents and all kinds of cool stuff. And then I took it all off my shelf and realized that none of it's gonna work. And then I learned a humbling lesson that backpacking is a whole new, it's a beast all of itself. And so I had to start from scratch. None of my stuff worked. A couple odds and ends that I take around for hunting, I was able to take with me. But I had to start from scratch. And which means a lot of research, which means a lot of YouTube videos, which means a lot of, asking people and commenting on videos and trying to figure out the best way to go about this. So I just want to do a couple shout outs. First and foremost, I want to thank Dan Becker. For those of you that watch backpacking videos, he's got a great backpacking channel. And, going over the reviews and everything that he went over, Dan Becker really kind of set me in the right path as a beginner to the right type of gear. So, Dan Becker, if you see this, I want to say thank you for setting me on the right track. I took a lot of Dan Becker's advice and a lot of his reviews. I did my own homework on it and realized that in fact that is the right gear for me. There was a lot of his reviews that I didn't follow, but a lot of them I did. And in the end, the products that he recommended that I researched and then bought ended up paying off really well. So Dan Becker, I want to say thank you for setting me on the right track. The second person I want to give a shout out to really quickly is the Hungry Hiker. Now, she gave me and the guys that I went on this backpacking trips great ideas for food. Now, I will say that the Mountain House meals that we did get were really good. And I'll do a review like on the chili mac and the beef stroganoff. That was great. But we also took some of her ideas on trail and we ate more than just the MREs or the freeze-dried foods because she had some really great ideas. And I know there's a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of backpackers with great ideas, but we ended up really kind of just following the Hungry Hiker is the name of her channel, and we followed her like kind of guideline on what she does, and we took a lot of her ideas and we utilized them. So thank you to the Hungry Hiker. If you follow her channel, just let her know there's some guy out here saying thank you for the tips in her videos. So without further ado, let's start going over the gear. So again, most of this gear that I have sitting before you here did really well. Some better than others, and some I was just like thrilled with, and some that I wasn't really thrilled with, but it got the job done. So the first product I'm going to talk about right now is going to be the tent I took. So the tent I took was the 9 Mile Ascend. Now this I bought at Cabela's. It's a backpacking tent, and I bought it at Cabela's. It's a 2-man tent, and it was like 119 bucks, I think. And it's a really nice tent. It's exactly what I needed it to be, not too big. I think it weighs like, on the higher end, it's like 4 pounds, but it wasn't terrible. And it got the job done. It kept me out of the elements. It kept me out of, the wind and the little bit of rain we got and some other things. But the one thing I'm going to say is that this thing takes way too many stakes. I mean, we're talking 12 stakes. 12. 6 to hold the tent down and 6 for the rain fly. That's too many stakes, I've learned. When you're spending a night and then you're uprooting and then you keep moving, this is not the tent that you want to take. This tent is great for, if you're gonna go car camping or you're gonna, drive off and find a nice campsite somewhere and you just want to set up for 2-3 nights. This thing's great. This thing is great, but when you're uprooting every day and you're setting up inside of the same day, this tent is just not ideal because 12 stakes, 12, and that's a lot of extra weight in stakes that you need to take, and this is on the higher end of the weight. Now, again, for those of you looking at buying this or that you own this, it's not a bad tent. It got the job done. It's just, I won't be using this tent again for backpacking. This tent I will keep, and I will use it for times that I need to just set up a tent for a few days because it does great then. But otherwise, I'm gonna go ahead and move on from this tent. I learned what I needed to learn about it, and we're gonna go ahead and just put this one on the shelf and use it whenever it applies. So in the future, I will be looking for a better tent, and maybe spend a little bit more than I did on this one for a more applicable tent. The next thing I want to talk about is the sleep pad. Now, I had no idea what I was getting myself into with the sleep pads, and this is a piece of gear that I never even thought about. I saw a lot of reviews, a lot of videos. This is one that I heard from Dan Becker, and then I did my own homework on it to figure out, like, is this sleep pad really worth the money, and does it do everything it claims it's going to do? And I'm here to tell you, as a 6 foot, 260 pound dude, that the Nemo Tensor was amazing. Never lost air. I never touched the ground. It did its job, and it was so awesome and so comfortable. I am very glad that I went with the Nemo Tensor. So, every night before I went to bed, I'm like, hopefully I don't wake up on the ground, and then I got to wake up and air it back up, and I was a little bit worried about, this pad not holding up to my weight, and it actually held up wonderful. There was 3 nights of just use and a lot of moving, and I sleep on my side, and this thing just was a champ. And I'm very, very happy with the Nemo Tensor. If you're out there and you're looking for what sleep pad to go with, I highly recommend the Nemo. I highly recommend you do your homework and figure out what's right for you. But if you're thinking about the Nemo, I say pull the trigger, get it, and this thing was awesome and efficient and great, and I can't say enough about it. Okay, next part of the sleep system is going to be the pillow I took. This pillow was great. I think I bought this for $20, I think. It's Sportsman's Warehouse, I think I had it. And it's a Thermarest pillow. And it was phenomenal. It packs away really small, and it's still comfortable when you fluff it out. And this thing was great. I'm gonna keep this as long as it lasts, and then I'll get another one because this packed away real nice and was just really comfortable as I slept on it and laid on it. So big kudos to Thermarest on this pillow. This was another thing that I believe Dan Becker talked about, and I just actually ran into it at the store one day, and I'm like, hey, look, there's this, and I got it, and it was very inexpensive. Oh, Big Agnes. This was the one thing that I was really stressing about when I was looking for stuff, because I have never owned a quality sleeping bag, and I've never spent, more than a certain amount of money, like at Walmart grabbing a quick sleeping bag, but I've never actually invested in a quality sleeping bag. And let me tell you, quality. This sleeping bag is absolute quality. The Big Agnes Torchlight 20, another Dan Becker reference, I guess. He had a video on it, did a review on it, and it's amazing. This thing, it got cold one of the nights. If you see my video, it got cold, and I was sweating in this thing. I mean, this thing, it was almost overkill, because I was hot. Like if your hand sneaks out of the sleeping bag and then you wake up and like everything from here and the rest of your body's warm, but your hand's like an icicle, you know what I mean? Like then you just tuck it in and then it warms up in no time. But this sleeping bag, the Big Agnes Torchlight 20, was phenomenal. I'm a believer, and the big thing about this that I want to kind of quickly go over is the fact that this has the relief zippers on it so that it creates more room inside the sleeping bag without allowing heat to escape. So those relief zippers that run alongside the actual zipper on both sides, I think it's like 10 inches of extra room inside there, was great. Being a big guy and a side sleeper, that plenty of room. So it was amazing, and I'm a believer in Big Agnes and the Torchlight 20. And if you're looking for a 20-degree bag or somewhere in that range, this thing, dynamite. So one of the champions of my trip. Now, let's talk about cook system real quick. Jetboil. The Jetboil is one of my favorite pieces of gear. This thing was awesome. This thing makes quick work of whatever it is you're cooking. Boiling water, ramen noodles, whatever it is you're doing, the Jetboil makes a quick work of it. So this is got the Jetboil Flash, and I use this thing a lot. Every meal, helping others boil their water, and I mean this thing was just working the whole time. She needs a little bit of maintenance and a little bit of cleaning before I put her away, but I was very impressed with the Jetboil. I've always wanted one, and I finally had a reason to get one, and I'm glad I did. This thing was amazing. So I know there's a lot of smaller systems, MSR systems and such, that will be lighter and take up less room in your pack, but for now, I'm going to allow Jetboil to have his own spot in the bag. And I'm going to take this guy wherever I go from here on out, just because this thing was just impressive out there and awesome. And a side note, I wanted to add, I took 2 of these small propane tanks, and I tested the Jetboil on it before I left. So I used it a little bit before I left on the trip. I used it on the trip, all through the trip. Made coffee, breakfast, dinner for myself and others. And this thing is probably still maybe a quarter full. Like, these things last a long time. So if you're trying to decide whether or not you need to take a big one, a little one, 2 of these, it depends. If you're going for a weekend, this right here, more than enough. I mean, I used it a lot, and it's still, like I said, got about a quarter or so in there. And so this is all you need. If you're going to be longer, maybe a week or so, maybe you go with the next size up, or you just bring 2 of the little guys. But 3, 4 days, this guy right here will be more than enough. I want to talk about next the champion of my trip, of our trip that we went on. This next product that I'm about to show you, or that I'm about to do a quick review on, was clutch for myself and the guys that I went on this trip with. I mean, this thing was amazing, and I can't speak highly enough about it. And this, again, was a Dan Becker review that I did my homework on and ended up getting, and it was amazing. So, without further ado, the Katadyn Be-Free water filter. I mean, I can't say enough about it. It's a little dirty, it's like I said, I gotta maintenance my gear, so if it's showing up on camera, I'm sorry, but the Katadyn Be-Free 3-liter bag was phenomenal. I mean, it was almost, I don't want to say too convenient, because you can never be too convenient, but we walked 50 yards to the river, filled it up, filled everyone's containers up, right? Camel packs, Nalgene bottles, whatever container we had, we filled it up. And then we filled it up, and then we took it to camp and we hung it from the tree. And then we would just fill up the Jetboil or whatever cook systems we have, and we just would use it. It was like so convenient, and the flow on these things are great. I mean, this was really the champion of our trip. We stayed hydrated. We got to cook off of this thing. It was just, and it packs away so small. you can pack it away so small and then unfold it, and you got 3 liters of hydration, cooking, whatever you need. It was just so great. So again, I'm going to say one more time, this was the champion of our trip, and the guys that I went with agreed. This is, I think everyone's a believer now in the Catadine and how convenient it was. They have different size bags. They have 1 liter bags, but I went with the 3 liter for the purpose of having more water available. And so the last part that I want to cover now is going to be the pack I used. The Osprey Aether, I don't know how people say it differently, but I'm going to say the Osprey Aether 65. Now, this bag was great. I mean, you could fit a lot of stuff in here. And I'm a habitual overpacker, which I learned is not a great thing in backpacking. No matter, even if it can fit, doesn't mean it should fit. But I learned a lot of lessons of packing. But I mean, the way that it stood, all my gear, I mean, just packed in here beautifully. I mean, I still got like my little fishing rod in here. I had the GoPro equipment with me. I mean, this thing accommodated all of my gear and some. And I can't say enough about this bag and the adjusting system on it that fits your body. I'm a big fan of this pack. Now, one of the guys I went with, my cousin, he has the Atmos 65, and he really liked that bag too. In the end, the lessons learned are, if you overpack, you're gonna pay, right? And then you think that would be obvious until you learn the hard way. But we did learn the hard way. We overpacked, and these durable bags, I mean, they handled it well. The way they sit on your hips and your shoulders, and be able to, all the straps to be able to bring the pack close to you, everything just was great about these packs. Now, if in the future I could figure out a way to not pack so much, I mean, I think this thing's going to serve me even better. But I was a real big fan of the Osprey Aether 65. Again, I'm going to use this bag time and time again until I need to get another one, or maybe try another one at some point. But for now, I like this bag. I'm going to stick with this bag. A couple things I want to talk about just really quickly. I had like an emergency blanket, and I didn't use this. What I did use this emergency blanket for was to put it underneath the Nemo tensor. So it's wider than the tensor and it's longer than the tensor, and so I just laid it underneath, and I laid the Nemo on top. That way it protected from anything poking through the tent or anything like that. It packs away small enough that it wasn't really much of a hindrance in my bag. I wasn't able to get a piece of Tyvek or something to put under the tent in case it did get pretty wet out there. But I did have this, and this served its purpose. The Nemo still was holding air. There was no pine needle sticking in it. So this was just kind of something that I took with me to protect the Nemo, and it did its job. And then the last thing, is the Nalgene bottle. I learned a lot of cool tricks and survival situations with these bottles and their capabilities. This was really nice when you're at camp. You can just fill this up, and we would filter water in here, and then we would put some Mio water or something and just flavor the water, and then you just sit there and hydrate. So this was nice having at camp. For on trail, I used the 3 liter camel pack that came with the Aether 65, but this was nice just having with you at camp just to stay hydrated. I did have a lot of other stuff I took with me. I know this video is probably already running long, so I don't want to add all the little odds and ends that I did take with me. So this is just the main system, but I was very, very impressed with most of this gear. I guess the moral of the story is, and I know a lot of experienced guys are going to come in my throat for this one, but if you spend the money and you buy quality gear, you won't suffer and you'll be a lot happier. Now, again, this is an amateur guy saying this, not an expert. I'm sure there are ways, but if I learned anything on this last trip was, if you spent the money and you got quality stuff, then you were comfortable. if you didn't spend the right amount of money, or you didn't spend enough, or you tried to cut a corner somewhere, you were uncomfortable and it just not very happy with, you know, maybe the sleep and or the food or whatever else may be. So the lesson that I took away from this was, I spent some money, I got some good gear, and I really enjoyed myself out there on the trail. And then my gear really did what it was supposed to do, and I enjoyed myself. So I want to thank you guys for sticking around. I know this video was a little bit long. I just wanted to cover some of the gear. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me on this review video. If you have any questions, or if I left anything out, or maybe you disagree or agree with something, leave it in the comments below. Again, amateur, and if you guys are intermediate or expert, or you guys have been doing it longer than I have, which most of you have, let me know in the comments what you guys feel about the products I mentioned. Again, thank you guys for joining. We'll see you guys next time. I got some more reviews coming up, so I'll see you guys. Peace.